Welcome back to Teal House Farm. Adrian's here again because it's Christmas break. Yay. You've been off for 2 weeks, is that right?
Yeah, a little more than that actually.
That's pretty cool. Adrian works for a university, so we try to snag her Easter, Christmas, fall break, all summer. That's when we do our canning. Today we're going to make chili 2 ways. We're going to make a traditional beef chili, which is your recipe, so what's in it?
Yeah, it's onions and beans and a lot of spices.
And then we're also going to make what I call a vegetable chili, but I posted a recipe of this a while ago on Shorts and got absolutely dragged through the comments because apparently it's not chili, it's vegetable stew with chili seasoning. But I call it vegetable chili. It's thick like a chili, has lots of beans and vegetables in it, and it's one of my favorite lunches. Like when I make the kids their lunch, I'll open up a pint of this for me and have it with some like tortilla chips. It's really good. So we're going to make that as well. So we'll have a beef chili and a meatless chili. And we're just going to put those together and can them today. We'll give you the recipes, the instructions, going to dice a lot of onions, and we'll all be crying. It'll be great. So let's go ahead and get started.
We are going to start with the vegetable chili. So for starters, we're going to need 2 red onions, and we're going to go ahead and dice these up pretty small. To go with the red onions, we're also going to need to dice 1 pound of carrots and 1 pound of celery. So I went ahead and peeled the carrots, and then we're going to also slice these. I keep them in circles if they aren't huge, but the bigger circles I am going to dice into halves or quarters so that all the pieces are pretty close to the same size. For the celery, we're going to cut off the leaves and the ends. We're going to save those to use in our vegetable broth we're going to make as the base of the soup. And then we're going to dice the rest of the celery up into bite-sized pieces as well. I'm setting these diced vegetables aside in a bowl because we're going to need to brown them just real quickly. Not brown, that's not the right word. We're just going to cook them real quickly in a pot before we add them to our soup to bring out the flavor. So we're just going to set them aside until we're ready to do that. But we're getting the dicing done because this is kind of the tedious part of the whole thing. And once we have that done, we can really get moving on the soup. Last vegetable, we need 2 bell peppers. You can use any kind or color you want. These are the ones that were cheapest at the store, so this is what I'm using. Just make sure they are sweet bell peppers. We went ahead and seeded them, and again, bite-sized pieces set apart in a bowl. Then we're going to get out our stock pot, and we're going to try to make about 1.5 gallons of vegetable broth. So we have our celery leaves, I have some pieces of onion, I got some carrot peels. The kids are all having fun playing the game. It is super cold out today.
These recipes use a lot of beans, and so we use dry beans, and so when you use, sorry about the background noise, they're playing, but keep going. We use dry beans, and when you use dry beans, you need to make sure you prep them for canning, and so you need to do the soaking. You either need to do the overnight soak, or you need to do the quick soak. So overnight soak means you rinse your beans, you put them in a pot of cold water with a lot of water, at least like twice as much water as beans, and you just let them sit for 10-12 hours. Then you drain them, and in the morning they're ready to be added to your recipe and cooked some more. The quick soak is what I did. So we did the same thing. We rinsed them, we put them in a pot and we brought that pot to a boil. We turned it off and they sat in the hot water for an hour, and now they're ready to be drained and used in the recipe. Adrian's chili used 2 pints worth of beans, right? Which was about half a bag of red kidney beans is what I prepped for her. And then for the vegetable one, it used 4 pounds of dry beans, and I did half red kidney beans and half black beans because I like to have a mixture of beans. But now they are all ready to go and to be added to our soup. And I just mentioned this so that you know that if you're using dry beans, you do need to do the prep method. You either need to overnight soak them or the quick soak with the boiling.
So those beans that we did all that work on last night, we're going to go ahead and drain. It's really important with cooking with dried beans when you're canning is that you do that initial quick soak, whichever way you decide to do it, and you drain that water off. It helps to make the beans more digestible is what I've read. It also makes sure that your beans in your final product are completely rehydrated to make sure that your canning is safe. Our vegetable broth is now done, so we go ahead and drain that into our pot with our 4 pounds of mostly rehydrated beans, and we're going to bring that to a boil. While we're bringing that up to a boil, we're going to go ahead and cook our vegetables in a little bit of butter just until the onions are translucent, and then we're going to add those to the pot. Next up, we need to add our spices. So we have about 6 cloves of garlic, We're going to add a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of oregano, 3 teaspoons smoked paprika, 4 teaspoons cumin, and 4 teaspoons of chili powder. And don't worry if you didn't remember all that, because I will put it in the description below. And then we're going to add a couple cans of things. So we're going to add 2 cans of diced tomatoes with the juice in them. I'm going to add 1 can of plain tomato sauce. This is a 29-ounce can. Dump that in there. And 2 cans of drained corn. You can use fresh or frozen corn as well. This is just what was most convenient for us today. I'm going to give that a really good mix. And we need to bring it to a boil before we bring it to be canned. So while we're waiting for that to happen, we're gonna go ahead and drain beef to get started on our beef chili. So this is 4 pounds of beef that has been drained. We're putting the grease aside, and once it solidifies, we'll save the fat off the top in the fridge to be used for baking. We're going to dice up 2 onions, and you can use white onions or red onions. It doesn't really matter. We just had these white, I guess these are yellow onions. We're just going to dice those up, and we diced them up pretty small because for this chili we really wanted not big chunky texture. We're going to add that to our browned ground beef, and we're also going to add about 6 cloves of garlic to this as well, and then we're going to mix it up really well and get those onions translucent before moving on to the next step. We're going to add chilies in adobo. So Adrian buys these in a big container and then puts them in small mason jars and freezes them specifically for this recipe. So that's about a half cup of diced chilies in adobo that we are adding. And then this recipe has tons of spices. And again, don't worry if you don't catch them all. I'm going to list them off for you, but they'll be listed below. For spices, we added 2/3 cup of Korean chili, red chili powder. Now you can use regular chili powder too, but we really like the stuff that's used for kimchi. It makes a great chili too. A teaspoon of cumin, 4 teaspoons oregano, 4 teaspoons paprika, 4 teaspoons of salt. And we did add our garlic here. I think it'd been better to add it with the onion, which is why I mentioned that earlier. And then we're gonna give that a nice stir, and then we're gonna go ahead and add 4 cans of rotel. You could buy store-bought rotel, or this is our homemade rotel. I can link that recipe below if you want to try it yourself. And then we're going to add 2 cans of tomato sauce, and those are pint-sized jars, or at the store you'd get the 15-ounce. And we're going to mix that up really well. Now, you can either add tomato juice or a little bit of water until you get the right consistency that you would like. We felt like this chili was a little bit too thick once we added our 2 pints of beans that had been prepped as well. And so I decided to add about 2 pints worth of water. And then we're going to bring it to a boil and then simmer, and then it should be all ready to be cooked. It'll be delicious. While we're waiting for both of those chilies to come to a boil and then lower down to a simmer, we get started on all of the dishes we made. The best part about canning with a friend is you have somebody to share the cleanup with as well. Many hands make light work. Once we're cleaned up, we take out our lids that we need. We put them in a bowl of hot water.
Woo! Oh, darn. It's a messy situation. It's Adrian's fault. I never make this kind of mess when she's not here.
And then our jars are clean, and we kept them in the oven to keep them warm. Dishwasher is your best option, but we don't have one here. The oven was off. We just put hot jars in the oven and turned the oven off, and it worked like an incubator. We're going to fill with 1-inch headspace. We're going to wipe the rims, and then I add the lids and the rings, and we're going to load up the canner. We do the beef chili first and get that one going. Once you have them in the canner, put the canner lid on, and then wait until you see a big chimney of steam to lock it down to build pressure. Okay, and then the vegetable chili, same thing, 1-inch headspace, wipe those rims, put on the lids and rings. We're gonna load up the canner, put the lid on the canner, get a real nice steam chimney, let that go for a couple minutes, and then lock the canner down to build pressure. Both of these are pints, and you will need to do 75 minutes at 11 pounds pressure. And while they're going, Ivy has made a very cute little charcuterie board for all the kids to share. So we're gonna have some chili plus veggies and some meat and cheese. happy bellies and full bellies all around. And then our canners were pretty much done after we had cleaned up from lunch. So we let them depressurize naturally, let it sit 5 more minutes, and then we put the jars out to cool for 24 hours before removing the rings. It smells.
We're wrapping it up. So we came at 8:30, 5 hours, is that right? It took 5 hours, which is pretty good considering the amount of food that we make. And both of these are long haul canning projects, long time in the canner, because they have meat and beans. The kids are still playing. They did go outside for quite a while, but it is cold out there today. So we have quarts in here finishing up of the vegetable chili, but overall we got 10 of the beef chili, right? And then 14 pints and 6 quarts, I believe. Or it's 16 pints and 6 quarts of the vegetable chili. So quite a lot for us to enjoy. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoy some chili and that you're staying warm on this super cold Arctic freeze that's coming across the middle United States here. So we'll see you all again really soon.